Hey listeners, make sure to check out our 2-week free trial for unlimited yoga, breathwork, and Ayurveda on betteryoga.net.
Hello, friends. Welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time listening. My name is Kari Herendorf, and this is the Better Yoga Podcast. So excited for my dear friend and colleague to be back again, Larissa Carlson, our resident Ayurvedic expert. Larissa is an esteemed yoga teacher, yoga and Ayurveda teacher, Ayurvedic expert, Ayurvedic practitioner. Her list of accolades is long and deep, and also becoming a Jyotish practitioner, which we'll have her back and talk all about that. Fascinating. She just read my chart. I'm so excited. Welcome, Larissa. Thank you for being here.
It's lovely to be back with you here this morning, and it's a kind of rainy day up in the Northeast, and nice to be kind of inside in the cool morning air, and getting to talk a little bit about summertime with you.
Which will come eventually.
Well, what's interesting is we actually have a proper spring, and I feel like the last few years it's gone right from winter to summer, and so I've been enjoying the mild temperatures and the rain. Yeah.
It's been very nice, and both of us as being Pitta dominant, which is our topic today, managing Pitta in the summer season. It's actually really nice because, we joke that, spring in New York City, where I was for years, was like Tuesday to Thursday. Because then by Friday, it was already like 80 degrees. And, so many of us love to just complain about the weather. But I've been enjoying, because the couple days that it was hot, I'm already like, it's already too hot. It's too hot, too fast. It never needs to get warmer than 72.
I thoroughly agree. I might argue for 62, unless I'm by the lake or pool or whatever, and then 72 is great.
Right? So fun. So fun. Yeah, it's nice to have a spring. And you and I were just together for 5 days at Kripalu, and it was just bursting. The green, the flowers. It's really nice to have a spring. It's nice to have an easy transition, right? So,
it sure is.
And Ayurveda is very big on easy transitions and minding the gap, as they say. So, so for those of you that are new to Ayurveda, Pitta dosha is fire and water, makes up Pitta dosha. And the Pitta time of year we are approaching, especially by the time you'll be listening to this. We're filming this in early May, but this will be dropping around Memorial Day. And so how to manage the fire when the fire outside is hotter and turned up, how to manage the fire inside, because we are the microcosm of the macrocosm. And for those of us that have more fire in us, summertime, you might love it, but it might be a little too intense. And Larissa, can you talk a little bit about how you would notice that intensity in the summer for someone who has a lot of fire?
Yeah. Well, I think one little hack is if you sleep with one foot out from under the covers, you're probably Pitta dominant. The feet are a place that have a resonance with the fire element. And so that's a place that tends to accumulate heat. And, we know this in modern research, the body releases heat or retains it both in the head and the feet. Yeah. And so feeling sort of hot-footed is a real tip-off, or hot-headed. And so flush in the face, feeling kind of short-tempered, frustrated, agitated, easily agitated, short temper, as well as just feeling like extra heat in the eyes, right? Heat rises typically, it does drop to the feet, but it does rise. And so noticing bloodshot eyes, more acne and breakouts, things like that. So if you're noticing yourself feeling that agitation, it's likely that you either have a lot of fire already in your constitution or it's accumulated.
Yeah. I love that, the foot out of the bed thing,
Yeah.
right? Like put your foot to the fire, right? And so in the Carmandrias, right? The foot. But for me, I'm always a like turn to the cool side of the pillow in the middle of the
Yeah,
night.
totally. Yeah.
Flip the pillow. It's like, cool. Yeah. So that's great. And just like, in nature, this is the time of year where Pitta dosha will start to accumulate. Like it's been pacified all winter. So it starts to build. And so this is the time that we want to start taking steps to manage it before it's too high and off the charts, right? It's like blood sugar.
Right.
You want to manage, do you want to manage that before you're hangry? All that. So can you talk a little bit about how my light is being temperamental?
Well,
How
which is
Ayurveda.
actually good for Pitta because
I
Pitta
know,
Pitta
right? But I
Pitta
was like,
doesn't love light. Yeah, Pitta loves to like be in the dark, and
we just
have
had
low
this
light.
conversation. Don't turn the lights on so bright. How does Ayurveda help us attune to the rhythms of the summer season?
Yeah. Yeah, so the heat accumulates and also the moisture content, right? It tends to get more humid this time of year. Certainly, we're getting that in the rain right now. It's mild. It's kind of cool, mild, and humid, but we're going to get heat and humidity building. And as the macrocosm of nature is filling up with those two elements of water and fire, then we start to feel that accumulate in the body mind. And so we could say, an excess that starts to accumulate. And that's just a natural accumulation, right? And so the key is to balance with opposites, right? Like increases like and opposites decrease, which is a foundational law or rule of Ayurveda that can be applied to diet, lifestyle, self-care, exercise, spice choices, entertainment choices, all the things, color therapy, you name it. And so as that heat is starting to accumulate, we want to mindfully choose cooling things and things that are less oily. So we can think of like that humidity as kind of having like an oiliness and unctuousness to it, like a dampness. And so taking away things that are too oily will be really, really useful this time of year. Sometimes folks think like, oh, well, pitta's wet, so we should do things that are really drying. But that's not exactly right. We want to think of it more as non-oily time of year, right? But still, we want to hydrate a lot because the summer is a time where we have more light. They're longer days. We're losing water by sweating, and that kind of thing. So we want to stay really well hydrated. So cool, hydrated, and those kinds of choices are going to be really useful. And there are, a million ways to do that, which we'll break down.
Yeah, that's the opposite balance. So let me bring in more air, more space, right? It's like that's where like a little bit of knowledge can sometimes be detrimental, right? Because
Right.
if you think about it, what does fire need? It needs air, right? And so wind will fan fire. So sometimes you might actually get a little bit more of an increase instead of just bringing in the cool therapies, cooling foods, which we'll talk about, cooling practices, right? And so it's really nice because these are like no cost. No cost. Think about the earth, right? You just want to get down low, get down on the earth. Heat rises, like you said, rises to the eyes, to the heads with like sites of pitta. And so can you talk a little bit about what some of your go-to summer rituals or routines are to help stay grounded, right? Just want to be more earth and cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So just highlighting that important approach that you've identified. Pitta's made of fire and water, so it's missing space, wind, and earth. But we really want to focus on space and earth because, as you said, wind fans fire. And this is sometimes like a blind spot for folks. And so we can think of wind as speed and busyness and overactivity and doing too much. And so this is a time of year to move from like we've been using the wind during the Kapha season of spring. It's been a time for like activity and like kicking things up. And then in summer, it's actually time to like take vacation and do a little bit of nothing, you know, like be more still and not move around as much. And if there's a lot of activity, to have a lot of space and downtime between those activities to air out, to cool down, to let off the steam, you know. And that's a really, really important part of this season. And the approach to staying cool is actually saying no, doing less, scheduling downtime, resting, like hanging out in a hammock, going swimming, you know, like
Literally,
doing nothing.
this is the thing, because when you were saying that, I was like, oh, well, when you said take vacation, I was like, well, a lot of people take vacation in the summer, so that's actually in line with
Mm.
that, right? And I was like, oh, summer reading list, you know? I was like, oh, the
Mm-hmm.
hammock, the bucolic picture of the hammock between the trees with the stack of books. And then I thought, I literally wrote blog posts every summer about the hammock that I had that I never sat in.
Yeah.
Ever. Year after year after year.
Making that choice is tough. My husband is just laughing because I just the other day ordered, like, it came up in my feed. We don't have a pool here where we live. We have like a shared one, but we have lakes. We go swimming we have lots of cold rivers, you know, that we go swimming in. But I love sunbathing. I love laying out in the sun, and you know that's not great for Pitta. You know, you got to be by the water or like
In the
close to
shade.
the water for that. Yeah, totally. And so I ordered. There was this like, hey, if you don't have a pool but you have a hose, then get this like tanning raft. And so you can lie down in this little like raft, and it has about 4 inches that you can fill it up like a little mini pool, you know,
Like a
like a
pool
little pool
house
for your deck.
where you
Exactly.
sink and you
Where
have the water, so it's
exactly.
cooling, but yeah.
So I just ordered that. Yeah, he was cracking up, and I was like, no, no, this is exactly what I need is to be sunbathing in water,
Cool,
in
cool
cool
water.
water. Yeah. But that's the real challenge, especially for folks who have a lot of pitta in their constitution or have a lot of vata in their constitution, when there's this desire to move, to be goal-oriented, to be productive, uh, that can prevent really the skillful choice of saying no and doing less and lying in the hammock and relaxing and taking time off, which is all those things are really needed in the summer season. And we live in a culture where most workers don't take their vacation days, and then when they do, it's like they're just jam-packed with stuff, and then there's not really a lot of rest. And rest and downtime is really key for Pitta. So, summer for me, being a Pitta has become really one of my favorite seasons because I have to skillfully adapt and adjust to that fiery season in order to stay balanced. So for me, the Pitta season has become over the years kind of the easiest season.
Mm.
Even though the fall and winter are my favorite seasons because they're super cool and I feel the best.
Yeah, but you're
Um,
probably busier.
yeah, and I've just learned how to stay cool in the summer. My pitta's really demanded getting really serious about it. And so I tend to not get any more sort of the pitta. I don't really get acid reflux, or loose stools anymore, skin rashes and stuff, but I used to. And so it really demanded changing habits and patterns and routines and lifestyle choices to really enjoy the summer season and thrive in a season where it's really easy to have pitta stack up and overflow and cause suffering.
Yeah, so you think about it like a glass with 5 elements, right? The 5 elements make the 3 doshas, and if you have more pitta, your glass is already half full.
Right.
And so in summer it fills up even more. And then you're at a barbecue or you're like eating chili or spicy foods and
Jalapeno poppers with
oh my
tequila
God.
shots. Yeah.
Like, yeah, right. Drinking the rosé that is like the summer water, they call it, right? That's just gonna spill over. And so you've been at this a really long time.
Mm.
You've been making skilled choices, and it's been a journey, right? Nothing too rough or too much too soon, because as I'm sure maybe listeners can identify with, the tendency to just like be all or nothing or throw it all out and do nothing. So can you talk a little bit about your journey? First of all, you have so much knowledge, but for someone who might just be starting out on that path, right? Like I would say to them, like, avoid being outside between 10 and 3. Like the first thing, right? Like not outside in direct sun between 10 and 3. You know, what would be a suggestion for you to like?
So like with lifestyle stuff, and I know we'll get into like yoga and diet more specifically, but just with lifestyle and routine and schedule, you're right on point, really trying to avoid the heat of the day and choosing to do more cooling activities, like exercising during the early morning when it's the coolest time of day, going out for nature walks and hikes, swimming in the morning or in the late afternoon and evening. And spending more time uh, moon gazing and stargazing and enjoying like outside evening cool activities. Those are some really lovely practices. But choosing to put up the umbrella on the deck, and sit in the shade instead of the sun, and to choose shady spots to hang out. These are super helpful activities, but also choosing just to go at a little bit of a slower pace, to not jam pack the schedule, to have there be a little bit more breathing room between activities and adventures, so that it's still a very fun and exciting and joyful and social season. People are out, especially up in New England. We're like, thank goodness we're out of the winter,
Finally.
right? So there's a lot of activity. I like to go see plays and go see the symphony orchestra and spend a lot of time, outside and in the cultural activities. And I stagger those a little bit, so it's not too much, And so that's an invitation for beginners to really look at what are the joyful non-negotiables of the summer, like how do you want to spend your time? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to hang out with and see? And what doesn't have to happen, And can there be scheduled into the week and the month times that are like truly just like hang around and do nothing, like have some R&R time, which is not rush and run, but it's rest and recover, rest and rejuvenate. Yeah.
Oh, they just
Oh.
R&R.
And so it's habit change, it's like choosing to slow down and really savor life, really savor life at a different pace. And one can still accomplish so many fun adventures just without burning oneself out, because the wind does fan the fire and it tends to create that kind of burnout and exhaustion. And then what that does, of course, is then it's going to affect the next season. And so if we get too hot or burned out, we also dry up our juices. Folks can really get dried up in the summer season, and then that causes fall and winter to be really tough. Like, yeah, because like then we get more dryness on the skin and dry lips and constipation, dryness in the bowels and such. So every season influences the next one.
Yeah, it's a big tenet in Chinese medicine too. Someone is like sick in the spring. It's like, well, what were you doing in the winter? Like, And again, this is why we're having this podcast now. Like, this is the time. This is the time that you need to start to manage. So it's not these huge spikes and fall off, like, big peaks and low valleys. It's,
yeah,
slow and steady.
Slow and steady. And it's a time to, start to adjust the other practices, like maybe, choosing to do less screen time, lowering the lights while inside, as the lights are a kind of fire, for the eyes. And so I like the darkness, all year, but keeping things more dim and cooling. And even, just like we change up clothing based on the time of the year, we can change up like the decorations and the colors that we choose to wear and to see around the house. Like it's time for those like seaside colors, like we're both in whites
Greens,
today. Yeah,
totally.
white. Yeah, I've got my nice
White.
blue seaside. I have a little whale on my mug
Look at
today, you
that.
know?
Pitta
Yeah.
pacifying
Pitta
even.
patifying.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, like picking those grays and whites and pastels and blues and greens and favoring those, like with throw pillows and flowers that you choose and bath towels and things like that. Like, we are affected by the colors that the eyes are seeing. And we're going to notice that in the macrocosm of nature. Like in this Kappa season of spring, the colors are so bright. I mean, look at like tulips and all that. I mean, it's so
Beautiful.
bright. And those are all going to fade away and we're going to have just green and blue. Like
Yeah.
that's what the earth, you know, that's what, Mother Nature gives us during the hot season is like we don't get the colorful flowers really. They're not in a huge abundance, after Memorial Day. We're going
Blue
to get
hydrangeas, just
yeah,
blue
right,
hydrangeas.
yeah. Yeah. And we get, like, aromas that are very cooling, like the beach
Mhm.
roses, They're bright pink, but we get a beautiful, sweet, cooling aroma that comes with them and such, so
And they're rose, so they're
and
cooling anyway,
Mhm. But it's like those kind of things, like switch up, like, the dining room table placemats, and choose placemats that are white or blue or something like that this time of year,
Yeah, no
and
orange, no red,
yeah,
no
we don't want
yeah.
that, yeah.
No.
So, and it's simple, free choices like this that it makes a difference because we are affected directly by everything that comes in through the five senses what we see, what we smell, what we're eating, what we put on the skin, what we're listening to. All of those things affect how prana is flowing through the body mind and kind of how that fire element is either being pacified and balanced or getting kind of jacked up.
Right. And
Yeah.
especially the eyes being a site of pitta, when you want to take that in, those nice cooling colors and
Mm.
soothing things like, a beautiful water scene on your laptop as the screensaver,
Yeah.
right? Things like that, or
That's a great idea.
nature, something like that. Um, okay, let's talk a little bit again about why it's so hard for pittas not to overdo it. And how they can start to shift that. And we'll take that into like movement practices and
Mm,
times of day that you
mm,
you kind of touched on. But
mm.
yeah.
Well, so folks with a Pitta constitution, they're born with more of that fieriness in them, and so they tend to be a little more driven, a little more goal oriented, tend to run hotter all
Ambitious.
year, a little, yeah, yeah, ambitious for sure. And what is fire's job? The fire's job is to consume. That's what fire does for a living, is consume things. And so folks with a Pitta nature tend to consume lots of information.
Mhm.
They are the ones that get hangry. They like to consume food. They don't, miss meals.
Yeah.
They consume all sorts of stuff. And so a lot of the thing for Pitta is to find a way to harmonize that fire so that it's not burning too brightly, too hot, too aggressively, too sharply, in which we often need like more fuel, or there's this like craving for more and more and more. We actually want to settle the fire, balance the fire, stabilize the fire. We don't want to put the fire out because we need
Yeah.
metabolism, we need agni, we need digestive fire, but we want to stabilize it. And so for Pitta, it's like think of it as it's an annual routine. So folks with a Pitta constitution, Pitta nature, they can afford to like do more in the fall and winter and spring. And it's generally best to like actually take summer to be a little bit more spacious. And
Mhm.
so I know I'm harping on that idea, but it can be life changing
Game
for
changer.
Pitta constitutions. And it's so, simple, but as we often say, like, not easy, for Pittas to make the choice to not do all the things and to really rest. What I like to do a lot in summer is just give, when I go I travel and teach a lot. You and I both teach a lot, and I just give bigger buffers to my activities in the summer season. So if I'm teaching a 5-day workshop, then it's like I'm going to take 3 days off afterwards instead of 2 in the summer, things like that. So it's like I just have a bigger buffer so that I can do my errands and have family time and rest time and joyful activity time without having it be under a lot of pressure.
Right.
And and that makes a big difference. That makes a big difference. So yeah, and then with, the exercise, just like changing up the activities and the clothing and such based on the season of the year, changing up the way that we exercise. And so Pitta often wants to like crush their workouts,
Right.
It's a way of consuming, right? Yeah.
Overachieving
Yeah.
the workout too.
hmm Yeah. So it's like they want to like do it all, do it harder, do it faster,
Yeah.
be the best. And this is an opportunity to like chill out and let the exercise in the summer be a little bit more intermediate, more moderate. Not definitely not as hot. We would avoid exercising in hot locations and during hot times of day, and
And
like
maybe hot yoga.
yeah, probably hot yoga is not so great for
Maybe
yeah.
no hot yoga in the
Yeah.
summertime at noon.
Like that's a real quick way to accumulate
Yeah.
heat. Yeah. And I know for beginners it's like, whoa, that information can sound really mind-blowing. But if it's already hot and humid outside in the weather, and then folks choose to do really hot, steamy activities like saunas and whirlpools and hot yoga or like really intense spin class where everybody's like sweating and grinding and yelling,
Loud
like
music,
loud music,
pumping. Yeah, yeah.
totally bright lights, those were activities that were better in the spring kapha season.
Mhm.
Right? They're great for kapha, not so excellent for pitta because those qualities of heat and unctuousness stack up and they cause a lot of trouble for pitta. Acid reflux, diarrhea, loose stools, burning urine, urinary tract infections, hives, allergic reactions, shingles, rosacea, hot-headedness, aggression, agitation, short temper, road rage, those are all pitta things, right? And we tend to see that
Ulcers.
stuff.
Yeah.
Ulcers, yeah, totally.
Um, it's so funny. The what was a game changer for me was when I read in the compendiums like you exercise just to the point of sweating.
Totally.
And I was like, what? But it's like, oh, you've reached your goal. And just dialing back because I loved a good spin class or loved a good intense workout. And just in the last few years, it's like, no, especially approaching, the season that I'm in my life. I don't want to dry out or burn out. I got to maintain that rasa, that juiciness, that essence, and it's really been a game changer of not having to be like my life is intense, right? Like, I'm always like I still have that. I don't even have the hammock anymore. I got to get a hammock and
We
really
gotta get
line
you a hammock, yeah.
it. Yeah. So, but changing that, and even in a sauna, when I do sauna, like just to the point of sweating, you don't have to, you know. There comes a point where there's diminishing returns.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. And so Ayurveda is all about skillful action and, of course, prevention of disease and maintenance of health. But what we don't want to do is overheat and then need to um, recover from that. So as you're saying, like if we can take the exercise down a couple of notches in the summer season, you still boost metabolism, keep the muscles toned, strengthen the bones, keep the body weight, stable and all that great stuff without burning up the juices, overworking the nervous system, exhausting the endocrine system, disrupting the hormones, that's like willful disruption of the hormones is equal to over exercising. And so this is not a real opportunity to take it down a couple of notches and then we can sustain that. So it might actually be maybe a little bit of a longer workout, but it's a little less intense, versus like a hardcore workout that is short.
Yeah.
So slow things down and savor, that's really the invitation. That's such a big deal for Pitta.
Yeah. And it's not an invitation to not work out or move.
Yeah.
So all
Yeah.
you couple of people who are listening, it's not like, oh, wow, Larissa said I didn't have to exercise in the summer. No, it's not it.
No, we just went walk and hike and go for laps in the lake, in the
Yeah.
pool, like do swimming. This is a great time to do cooling exercise,
Yes, really
do a lot of swimming.
swimming. That's
Mhm.
great. That's a great thing. Or
Or
because
yoga.
I don't like doing swimming, just
Mhm.
sitting by the water
Yeah.
pacifies pitta. In the shade, sitting on the earth. Earth is always cooler than the air, sitting on the earth and just watching it. Like you said, taking it in through the eyes. So that's also pitta pacifying.
Mhm.
Um,
And keeping your sunglasses around, pittas, because as you've identified, the eyes are a main place for pitta where they dominate. And so the eyes can not only get like bloodshot and whatever, but they can be really sensitive to the light. So not just dimming the lights, but like this is the time to wear your sunglasses more often and longer in the day. And like even if it's early morning, you may want to take those shades with you just to like start the day with cool eyes and keep that going, throughout the day.
yeah.
So
And a
simple
hat.
things like that. Yeah.
So I have my own shade with me all the time, right? A hat and sunglasses, and it makes such a difference because you're covering your head from the heat of the sun, and you have your own little sail, little shade.
Mhm.
The wider the brim, the better. Yeah, it's just really these little things make a huge difference.
Mhm.
Yeah, they really do.
And when we look at like the yoga practice, then even adjusting that, again, reducing the speed or the intensity. It's not a great time of year to be doing like really intense arm balancing or inversions because those are heating. They're heating typically. And so it's a time to be doing more cooling, spacious, like
Moon salutes
moon
instead of
salutes.
sun salutes. Just
Exactly.
swap that out.
So
So different.
so useful. Such an easy shift.
Yeah.
And then it's like, why is it cooler? Well, because those moon salutes have more side postures where the arms are extended so the armpits can air out and the legs are wider apart so the groin can air out as well.
Yeah.
And so taking a posture that's more spacious just cools the body down and going at a little bit of a slower pace, right? Because again, like slow flow vinyasa is going to be great for the pitta season. We don't want a lot of fast vinyasa because speed is wind and wind fans fire again. Yeah.
Yeah, the sun salutes are solar, the moon salutes are lunar. They're cooling, they flow like water, they're slower, they're the wide. So you want to favor these poses like Prasarita Padottanasana, anything that's going to air out the sweaty places.
Yeah. Trikonasana.
Wide legs,
Yeah.
wide arms, and then opening up the side body. So really like letting the heat out. Anything
Yeah.
that's going to really let the heat out.
And like that with breath work, like this is a great time to let go of the hotter breaths or reduce them substantially. So like letting go of Bhastrika and Kapalabhati, which are very heating, and those are great for Kapha season of spring. They're not ideal for Pitta summer season. So just a little bit is needed. If you're feeling a little congested early morning, fine, but not too much of those. Same with like breath retentions, those are heating. And Ujjayi. In
Yeah,
which,
you can let the ujjayi go.
folks get so grumbly with their ujjayis, like loud and aggressive.
Vader.
Yeah, Darth Vader-y. And it's like, no, 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 no. Let it go. Let the breath be silent.
Ujjayi should just sound like a seashell, right? To bring it back to that nice, the ocean sounding. It's not aggressive at all. Like, I think it was Rodney that said, like, Ujjayi, you should be the only one that hears your Ujjayi breath.
This episode of the Better Yoga Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Banyan Botanicals. Use the code KARI15 for 15% off their amazing Ayurvedic products. That's KARI 15. Don't forget to use the link in our show notes. And our friends at Vibrant Health. Use the code BETTER_yoga for 20% off your next purchase of supplements and superfoods at vibranthealth.com.
Totally. Yeah.
Not the
Yeah.
person next to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's especially true for pittas. Especially true for pittas. So sometimes with kapha, we want them to be more robust in their sound, and really work their lungs a little more. But for pitta, it's like, actually, no, it should be very silky and quiet.
Right.
And that alone, just changing the way we breathe, because what's the element of breath? It's wind,
Please.
right? Vata governs the movement of the lungs. The lungs are a kapha organ, but it's vata moving
Going
them.
through it, right.
And so if we get fancy and fast and intense with the breath, that's going to jack up Pitta so quickly.
Yeah.
And as like pranayama, my favorite thing of all time, like for me on my journey, that was been a big adjustment is, I had to, I think of it almost like demolition to my yoga practice, I had to like break down all the things that I used to do
Yeah.
because I was, teaching. I love teaching vinyasa and like noon vinyasa, and I used to be known in the building as like,
another thing we can ask for Paolo to ship.
yeah, totally. Yeah, like, yeah, noon
Great.
vinyasa is not
Vigorous
ideal.
vinyasa at noon in
It's like,
July.
yeah, not such a good idea. And I used to teach that class like so many days a week, and I was known for a while as the most vigorous of the vigorous teachers. Like I would just rev it way up, love to compete. And so I had to learn to not do that and to give the pranayama practice a more cooling twist in the summer. And that changed so much for me because I used to really wrestle with burning eyes and short temper and all sorts of kind of pitta things, and changing up my asana because asana and pranayama are such a big part of my daily routine. Changing it up in the summer made a huge difference for me. And so when we let go of those more heating things like the arm balancing and the speed and the hot pranayams, then we can favor the techniques that are more spacious and cooling, like the bumblebee breath and counting breaths and the cooling breaths like Shitali and Satkari. Like these are amazing pranayams, and they're so prana circulating, and you get all the meditative benefits. You don't have to get high off Bastrika in order to, prepare for meditation. You can set everything up in a very smooth, satisfying way. But it just takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
To
So we always
adjust.
say, the nose is for breathing, the mouth is for eating, but Shitali is the one, the one time where like, breathe through the mouth, you'll feel it, the air is cool, the mouth gets cooled when it comes in, and it's a incredibly free, fast, and easy way to just cool a hot head.
Yeah, folks can try. Why don't we
Done.
try it right now?
Sure.
Like super safe for all kinds of medications and pregnancy, and like
Everything.
there's no contraindications to this.
Yeah.
So you just curl the tongue like a straw, and if the tongue doesn't curl, then you can do it through the teeth, where the tongue just kind of floats right behind the teeth so that the air can circulate around the tongue. So you don't want the tongue plastered to the roof or to the base. It just kind of like comes in like a fan. But for everybody, you're just going to inhale through the tongue or the teeth. And then close the mouth. Flip the tip of the tongue up to the roof of the mouth so it lightly tickles, and it's going to send the coolness up towards the brain and sense organs as you exhale through the nose. And then you start again. Inhale through the mouth. Close the mouth, exhale through the nose. Tip of the tongue lightly tickles. Let's try one more. You can even close your eyes with us. And then just pause and feel the effects, just like 3-4 rounds of that. You should notice that the tongue starts to feel cooler, and the tongue is the beginning of the digestive tract. So it has this ripple effect down into the gut. Really nice technique for acid reflux. You might feel coolness going down into the lungs, cooling inflammation. You might feel coolness spreading up into the mind, refreshing the mind. And so this is a technique that's so simple, it's so effective, and it's incredibly safe, and it's quick acting. I think it's faster than really any of the other pranayamas. So you only need to do it for 30 seconds or a minute. We just did like a tiny little round, but for folks who want to do that more often, like whenever you're feeling hot flash, hot temper, hot mind, like acid reflux. Yeah.
I literally like a cartoon. I could feel like
Yeah.
glue coming down my face.
Totally. So like what I do, Kari, is like the foot baths are also really
I
cooling.
want to talk about that because it's like, so let's get into like the hacks,
Yeah.
okay? And I learned this from you, Larissa, because I don't cold plunge. Okay, no,
Yeah.
I don't like to swim in a cold. I won't go in the river. I live on the river. I watch people laugh at me all the time. I just put a pool in so I don't have to go in
Yeah.
the river. This is where my vata is like trumps my pitta. Like no cold water. But I will put my feet in the water. And that alone, like you said, taking your foot out of the bed, like I put I cold plunge my feet and my whole body cools down. It doesn't have to be this like all or nothing thing. And I know Larissa, I'm sure you'll
Like
share this.
18 times a day, I put
You
my
put
feet
your
in
foot,
cold water.
just put it in the
Oh,
sink and just
yeah.
put cold water on it.
Yeah.
And I started to do that. I started to put like an inch of water in my
Yeah.
bathtub. And while I brush my teeth in the summer, I step into it and I do a cold plunge on my feet while I brush my teeth. And then I hold cold water in my mouth. So the whole mouth gets cold because it's like a place where the heat will accumulate, as I said that. And so I hold cold water in my mouth while I splash my face with cold water 7 times. It's a morning practice for me. And then my eyes. And I am good to go.
Yeah, totally.
I am good till high noon. Like it's free, easy. It's so simple, and it makes such a difference. You're literally dialing down your thermostat from the top and the bottom into the middle. It's
Totally. And we see these kind of like little foot baths in different Mediterranean societies and such. Like they'll have like a little bath before you come into the house, for the feet where you can rinse the feet, not just of like dust and whatever, but like cooling the feet down before coming into the home, And so, yeah, like for folks who get overheated, like even if you're at work, go in the bathroom, slide off your feet, your shoes, dunk your feet in the sink, and then, you're going to feel so different. And also like wrists and ankles, because there's a lot of blood circulating right through the wrists and the ankle.
Yeah.
So get those spots cool too. Like don't just wash the hands, but like get the wrists in the cold water. And this is great for kids as well. If you have a kid who's like overheated, you're at the action park or something like that, get their wrists and ankles cold into cold water, and you can cool them down in a flash.
Yeah, it's a game changer because of the necks of the body, the places where the heat would accumulate, going from like a larger area to a smaller area. It's like a traffic jam or bottleneck, So, and for anyone that's ever like felt faint or something, to put a cold cloth on the back of the neck, a cloth on the wrist, it's the same thing. You're gonna bring that heat down.
Yeah, so that's a great hack. We also love things like I have my rose water here, which I keep in the fridge year round. I have one that's on my desk, I have one that's in my bathroom, and then I have one that I keep in the fridge. And this rose water, there are lots of great companies out there. This one is Baja Basics, which I really like. It's an organic, cruelty-free. I'm not an ambassador for them, but I love this particular one. And it's just distilled rose water. So there should be no perfume, no dye, no preservatives or anything when you're getting rose water. No essential oil in it either. So folks who are buying rose water, be really cautious about the ingredients. It should be just distilled organic rose water, and it's very cooling. So you can spritz it and like get it like right in the eyes. I have my contacts in right now. Like I can spray right in the eyes. It can go right in the mouth and up your nose, and it just creates like this little aura of sweet aroma of rose. And there's no perfume, so it doesn't last. So it doesn't irritate other people or whatever. It's not like an incense, but it just cools the system. And so for folks who are running hot, have some rose spritz, and you can just go into the fridge and get a cold rose spritz on your face, when you're starting to feel overheated. I keep one right here at my desk because, I'm on the screen a lot doing private consultations. And so between consults, I spritz myself with rose water, give my eyes a little break, and it's like helps me stay cool during the day.
Yeah. And 'cause rose in and of itself is cooling and so good for women. Rose. And so I love that. So the cold plunge feet, cold rinsing the eyes in the morning, like clear, the way of cleaning the sense organs. The eyes are a seat of pitta. And I know Larissa has another treat for us with her her rose quartz.
So these are like cute. Again, I'm not an ambassador for these companies, but these are like cute little rose quartz. They're like mushroom face massagers, and you know you can find them online and in different areas. These ones I got from Floracopia, so I don't know if Amuni Herbs is selling them now. I haven't looked because they've taken over for Floracopia in lots of ways. But basically, I keep these in the fridge. These are still very
I
cold
have
right
mine in
now.
my freezer. I have
Yeah.
a jade roller with a
Oh.
rose quartz, and I have it in the freezer.
Oh, nice.
Puffy eyes or
Yeah.
anything, you know.
Ooh. Yeah. And you can just take them right to the face, and you know you could do a whole massage. You can even massage on your face oil with these, which is really nice. But what I do is like, it feels so nice right now, guys. Like, just like put
She's
it
just
around,
pressing
touch
them
it.
onto her cheeks, which is like, well,
Oh,
my pitta comes right out because pitta also lives in the skin. Like
mm,
pitta will move sideways, like fire
mm,
spreads. And so,
mm,
the red cheeks, acne, that's pitta coming out through the skin.
mm,
So from the fridge or from the freezer, putting that on, it's just like, oh. I already had I told you, I had a pitta spot. I just get a red, it's not a zit. It's just the redness comes and I know, okay, time to dial it down. No more yogurt, even though you think yogurt is like cool, and milk, which pacifies pitta. No, it's fermented. So let's go into diet before we
mm,
wrap up. Like,
mm,
so stopping things that are fermented, things that are heating, like you'd said, obviously chilies, things like that. But some things that folks might not realize, like things like tomatoes, like red foods can be accumulating that fire and adding to the pitta, except for pomegranates and watermelon, which we all know. Everyone loves a good watermelon in the summer, right? It is the summer food, and it's the time to eat the watermelon. That will the best way to hydrate in the heat of the summer. Watermelon. What are some of your favorite diet or refreshing beverages?
Yeah. So sweet and bitter are really, really useful. So all the bitter greens, it's time for lettuce and sprouts and spinach, and some of those things start in the couple season of spring with the asparagus and whatnot. But lots of greens, lots of lettuce, and uh, s- summer squash. Very juicy. We're going to get cucumbers, and like the summer harvest is 80% cooling. There'll be 20% of it where there's some chilies and there's some tomatoes and things like that. And so you want to keep those spicier things to a minimum, just enough to support digestive fire, but not so much that it overheats the body. So the nightshades are heating for pitta. They cause trouble. So tomatoes, garlic,
Eggplants.
onion, eggplant, bell peppers. I find bell peppers are like the
I
worst.
can't eat them.
Yeah. And like when they're like
Not a
in
pepper
oil
in
or
yours.
something, like an Italian sub where it's like,
Hot
oh my
peppers.
gosh, yeah, I'll just explode. So yeah. So we don't want to have a lot of like red sauces, marinara, stuff like that this time of year, because then you have like the garlic, the onion, the salt.
Oh, yeah.
Salt is heating. Salt is heating, folks, right? It melts snow. So foods that are nightshades, salty, sour, fermented, pickles, kimchi, kombucha, beer,
The
these are all,
kombucha, when I
right?
learned the kombucha, I was like, I used to brew my own. I would drink like a glass every day. It was so refreshing, bubbly, cool. Oh my God. Fermented, of course. Duh.
Yeah. It goes in the mouth cool, and then,
I
it heats
know,
up
but
real
that
fast.
vipaka gets you.
It does. Yeah. That post-digestive effect. So
Yeah.
we want to reduce the nightshades, the oily food, the greasy food, fried food. It's not a great time for like tempura or stir fry. But instead, we want to do things like steamed vegetables, grilled vegetables make a whole lot of sense, this time of year. Having raw vegetables, having raw salads,
Time for
and stuff.
salad.
Yeah, it's time for
Time for
salad.
salad.
Totally time for salad. Yeah, my fridge is stocked and I'm already ready for salads right now. So I love to favor those. And then all the sweet fruits. So the berries and the cherries turning into the watermelon and the plums and the sweet
Oh
nectarines.
my God, peaches.
Corn is a cooling grain. Corn makes, if you can get organic corn, that is a great grain for the summer. Pretty much all the grains are fairly neutral in temperature, so the carbs aren't going to cause much trouble for pitta. Like everybody, you can have your, breads and quinoa and rice, like they're all pretty okay. Um, but even things like red meat, we would reduce, for folks who take meat, and reducing seafood because that is salty and can be a little problematic for pitta.
Right.
So we don't have to avoid these things, but we want to reduce them, put them
Yeah.
into the
Well,
20%. Yeah.
notice how it makes you feel, right? Like just increasing your awareness,
Hmm.
self-study, right?
Yeah.
Little sweaty, yeah.
Reducing the
Coconut.
alcohol, alcohol,
Yes.
coffee. I'm about on June 1st, I will be off coffee for a year, not a
Yeah.
sip of it for a year. And, these are things that are pretty heating for pitta. So we don't have to, folks don't have to give it up, but you want to minimize, and reduce it in the summer season.
Yeah. Um, Coconut water,
Mm-hmm.
so cooling.
Mm-hmm.
Mint, water with the cucumber slice or a mint
Mm-hmm.
leaf in it is
Mm-hmm.
delicious and will really help
Hmm.
dial down that fire, keep
And
you
even
really cool.
I brought this downstairs too. So I'm not, again, not an ambassador for this company, but I just grabbed some aloe vera gel or aloe vera juice, food grade. I keep this in the fridge all year. And this is a really nice, think of it as like the fridge should have some of your medicine cabinet items,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so aloe gel or aloe juice, just taking like a shot of it, if there's acid reflux, it's such a quick way to cool
Yeah.
the system down. It's generally speaking quite safe. And so having a little aloe around in the summer, especially if you're pitta dominant, especially if you tend to have acid reflux, diarrhea, loose stools, skin rashes and hives in the summer,
Yeah,
like
well,
a
you think
little
if
bit
you
of
have a
aloe
burn,
juice
you
is
have a
great.
sunburn, you put aloe on it,
Right.
right? And so, one thing I do is I have pomegranate juice and aloe vera gel, and I
Mm-hmm.
make myself a shot of that in the summer,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and huge. My rose spritz is in the fridge, my pomegranate juice, my aloe
Mm-hmm.
vera gel.
Big time. Pomegranate juice. Yeah. Big time. Yeah. And you can make a little mocktail, and have like add a little squeeze of lime, our only cooling citrus.
Yeah.
That's a great option too. Yeah. And
So
then
good.
also just want to mention, with Abhyanga, because we talk about that so much, like we want to take dry brushing down a little bit in the summer because dry brushing is heating, right? It's friction. So
Gets
you
the
might,
redness to your skin
yeah,
right away thinking
I
about
know.
that, right?
Kari always laughs when I demonstrate dry brushing. I turn beet red in the face in like 6 seconds, It's like a
A
blowtorch,
blowtorch.
totally. And so it might be time to do more like cooling exfoliation in the shower, getting like a coconut scrub, or an organic
Yeah.
coconut scrub or something like
Sugar
that.
scrub.
hmm And doing it in the shower, if you're going to dry brush, let it be a little lighter, not as fast, and maybe once a week just to exfoliate and clear off, the dead skin. And then we want to change up the Abhyanga oil and
Yeah.
take out the hot oils like mustard and
Sesame.
sesame, and then switch that up for like sunflower, almond, jojoba, or coconut, which
Coconut.
is like the best. So I use like coconut brahmi. Now I am an ambassador for Banyan Botanicals, so I've got
Yeah.
a whole stash of those. But brahmi is a wonderful herb that is incredibly cooling. It supports soothing the nervous system. It can support good sleep. It's really nice on the skin. So this is pretty
It's
much
really
what I
nice on the
massage
head
myself.
because brahmi is cooling and it, has an
Hmm.
affinity for the brain and
Mhm.
channels of the mind. So I'll rub Eric's head with the brahmi oil, the coconut
Yes.
oil.
Okay.
Down. Let me give you. Oh yeah. So it's not a void oil. Like we still do our abhyanga, but we want to do it with more cooling oils.
Right, and then often a smaller quantity of
Yeah.
oil because it's a humid season, so you may not need as much oil. And if it's like a super, like one of those like sticky summer
Day.
days, don't oil your skin. You take a break that day. Yeah, you don't need to oil up on a super humid day. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
This has been so illuminating. I hope our audience agrees. Always learn some good hacks from you, Larissa. Thank you so much. My takeaway is scheduling more than one rest day after traveling and teaching. And I was like, oh, scheduling a rest day? This is such a game changer. And then she says goes from 2 to 3. And I was like celebrating that I had one day off after I go home. So
It's good to celebrate that, right? That's an
Yeah,
achievement.
I'm bravely, that's where I'm bravely working. So a hammock in that, and I hope all you folks listening gained some good insight and came away with a few takeaways to try for yourself. Thank you so much, Larissa. Always a pleasure.
You're welcome. Stay cool. Stay cool, friends.
Stay cool. Chill out, guys.
Mhm.
Chill out.
Just chill.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. Don't forget to check out our 2-week free trial for unlimited yoga, breathwork, and Ayurveda on betteryoga.net.